tout le monde. Bienvenue à ce briefage technique sur la situation en Israël, dans la bande de Gaza et en Cisjordanie. Je m'appelle Guillaume Saint-Pierre et je serai votre modérateur. So we have four people with us today. Alexandre Lévesque, Assistant Deputy Minister, Europe, Arctic, Middle East and Maghreb. Julie Sunday, Assistant Deputy Minister, Consular Security and Emergency Management. Monsieur Lévesque and Madame Sunday will make statements. We also have Bob Ashtaloni. Sorry, I don't want to. Commander of the Canadian Joint Operations Command from the Department of National Defense. From Immigration Canada, Jennifer McIntyre, Assistant Deputy Minister, International Affairs and Crisis Response. So we will start with statements, and then we will take questions in the room and online. Monsieur Lévesque.
Merci, Monsieur le modérateur. Messieurs, dames des médias, bonjour. Good afternoon. I want to provide a quick update further to our last briefing a couple of days ago. Starting with Minister Joly, who during her visit to the region has so far engaged with the Israeli, Palestinian, Jordanian, and Qatari foreign ministers, as well as the Commissioner General for the UN Refugee and Works Agency. She will be continuing to make outreach calls to counterparts. In her discussions, Minister Joly condemned Hamas's terrorist attack on Israel and spoke about the importance of protecting all civilians and aid workers, as well as the urgent need for humanitarian access. She further thanked her counterparts for their continued help in facilitating the departure of Canadians from the region. Prime Minister Trudeau is also engaging extensively on this crisis. On Friday, he spoke with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas, where the two underscored that Hamas does not represent the legitimate aspirations of the Palestinian people. Prime Minister reaffirmed Canada's support for the right of the Israeli and Palestinian people to live in peace and security. À Gaza, la situation humanitaire catastrophique est une préoccupation grave pour le gouvernement. Des centaines de milliers de personnes sont déplacées. La population ne peut accéder aux produits de première nécessité. Il est essentiel que l'aide humanitaire puisse atteindre ces civils dans le besoin. Nous continuons à suivre la situation de près et appelons toutes les parties à respecter le droit humanitaire international. L'ambassade du Canada en Israël et notre bureau de représentation à Ramallah restent ouverts. Le personnel de nos missions a continué à soutenir les Canadiens tout au long de la fin de semaine, et ce, dans des circonstances extrêmement difficiles. Sur ce, j'aimerais me tourner vers ma collègue Julie Sunday qui va vous fournir plus de détails sur la réponse consulaire actuelle du Canada et il me fera plaisir de prendre des questions après.
Merci, Alexandre, and we're very pleased to be here to provide some updates on the latest details regarding consular needs and the support being provided to Canadians, including for assisted departures. First of all, I'd like to share the latest numbers from the Emergency Watch and Response Center. In the last 24 hours, we've responded to over 800 inquiries. We've received almost 4,200 inquiries now since the beginning of the crisis. There were over 60 responders working overnight and throughout this weekend at the Watch Center. We are deploying 25 members of the Standing Rapid Deployment Team to reinforce our missions in Tel Aviv, Ramallah, Athens, Cairo, and Beirut. Our missions on the ground throughout the region continue to provide consular services to Canadians throughout the weekend. Pour la mise à jour du service d'inscription des Canadiens à l'étranger, actuellement en Israël, plus de 6 800 Canadiens sont inscrits et plus de 450 Canadiens sont inscrits en Cisjordanie et dans la bande de Gaza. De ce nombre, nous aidons présentement plus de 3 300 Canadiens résidents permanents et leurs familles. Since our last technical briefing on Friday, sadly, one Canadian who was missing has now been confirmed as deceased, and we have had confirmation of another death. As a result, Global Affairs Canada is aware of the deaths of 5 Canadians. We also continue to follow up on the cases of 3 other missing Canadians. Les départs avec assistance de Tel Aviv à Athènes se poursuivent sans incident. Je suis heureuse de vous informer que d'ici la fin de la journée, plus de 1000 passagers auront quitté Israël à bord de vols canadiens à destination d'Athènes. 2 vols auront lieu aujourd'hui. Le premier vol comprenait 90 passagers et a quitté Tel Aviv à 17 heures local pour arriver à Athènes à 19 heures. Le deuxième vol prévoit le transport de 173 passagers. Le départ est imminent et l'arrivée est prévue à 21 heures à Athènes. Nous prévoyons effectuer 2 autres vols des FAC demain. Nous continuons à suivre les autres passagers potentiels en Israël afin de nous assurer qu'ils sont prêts à voyager, de les enregistrer sur des vols et de faciliter leur voyage vers le Canada. Let me now update you on our efforts to assist departures from the Palestinian territories. For the Gaza Strip, the situation remains extremely fluid and insecure. Approximately 300 Canadians, permanent residents, and their families have reached out to us for assistance and for support to exit Gaza. I can share that this is a very diverse group. Some are individual Canadian citizens, others are permanent residents. Many are families, which include a mix of Canadians, permanent residents, and their family members. As mentioned at our last briefing, we were hoping to have an opportunity for an exit through Rafah on Saturday, which sadly did not materialize. We remain in constant communication with allies, the UN, and the governments in the region to facilitate these departures. Minister Joly has been engaging directly with her counterparts to secure their support. As was mentioned on Friday, it is increasingly challenging to communicate with Canadians in the Gaza Strip, given that electricity is down and telecoms are affected. However, we are using all available methods to stay in contact, to give them the latest information, and to be ready to take advantage of any window for a safe exit. Our mission in Cairo is also engaging with Egyptian authorities to ensure that once they are through the crossing, Canadians will be transported to Cairo and can return to Canada. For assisted departure options from the West Bank, we continue to develop ground transportation options to Jordan and are consulting local authorities so that we can transport people by bus. Our missions in Ramallah and Jordan are preparing to support this movement across the border. We are in direct contact with all interested Canadians in the West Bank to help them prepare, and we will share further details in the coming days. This weekend, we have updated our travel advice to alert Canadians to a number of possible border closures in the region. The situation on the ground is unpredictable, and border crossings can close unexpectedly. Canadians in the area should verify the status of the border crossings before travel. We are also advising Canadians in Jordan about possible large-scale protests in the area and to avoid demonstrations and gatherings. The situation in Lebanon continues to be unstable. Whole-of-government planning is actively taking place to prepare for all possible scenarios, including the pre-positioning of some of our SRDT officers in the region. As mentioned in previous briefings, there are many Canadian citizens and permanent residents in Lebanon. Due to security risks, we are advising that they should avoid all travel to the area along the border with Israel. Canadians who are thinking about traveling to Lebanon are strongly advised to avoid all non-essential travel. This is simply not the time to go there. Canadians who are already in Lebanon should think about whether you really need to be there. The situation is volatile, and if you don't need to be there, you should consider leaving while commercial means are still available. Thank you. I will now pass to Vice Admiral Ochterlony.
Hey, thanks, Julie. I'm the Chief of Operations Canadian Armed Forces, and I'll be very brief. En réponse à une demande d'aide fédérale de Faire mondial Canada, les forces armées canadiennes ont rapidement mis en place une plateforme aérienne à Athens, Grèce, et soutiennent le rapatriement des Canadiens d'Israël avec 2 Airbus CC à 150. Under the now-named Operation Ion, the Canadian Forces have been supporting Global Affairs Canada with the assisted departure of passengers from Ben Gurion Airport into Athens, Greece since the 12th of October. And as noted by Julie just a few minutes ago, we've already conducted two flights today. The first has now landed in Athens, Greece. The second has just landed in Tel Aviv. And by the end of the day, as noted by Julie, we'll have repatriated over 1,000 Canadians from Israel to Athens. And I think I'll leave it there.
Merci beaucoup. On va donc passer à la période de questions selon la formule habituelle, une question de suivi. We will take questions from the room and then we will go online. Mackenzie Gray? ATV?
Yeah, hi, Mackenzie Gray, Global News. Can we just get a little more kind of context on why folks were not able to cross into Egypt yesterday?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So the situation at the Rafah gate is incredibly complex, and nobody got through that gate yesterday. In terms of what we're doing, we're engaging with all interlocutors, both in capitals and in the region, to be able to get an option for people to be able to exit. So this includes Israel, it includes Egypt, it includes the U.S., who is very engaged in trying to get this corridor opened, and it also includes the UN. So clearly, though, there are some difficulties as in terms of who's controlling the Gaza Strip. It's Hamas, and there are difficulties in ensuring that all of these parties are in agreement to that border opening for foreign nationals and others for humanitarian purposes. So it is incredibly complex, and all of those things have to be lined up for that border to be opened. This is why we're informing people that when there is a window ready, it could be a very short window. And so we're advising them to continue to follow updates from us, which we are sending through various means. We have called on Friday night, we called every single individual we had on our list in Gaza, which was close to 50 families, to inform them directly, to be in contact with them. And we continue to stay in contact either through phone or SMS, but it's difficult because we know electricity has been failing in the Gaza Strip, and so it's been difficult to get in touch with people. That said, we gave as much information as we could, and people recognize that moving south is the best option right now. Thanks.
But just more specifically on what the breakdown was, you seemed medium optimistic, I'd say. You had the date, you had a time. Obviously, that was subject to a number of things. I'm just looking for more clarity on what actually happened and why people weren't able to cross.
I think, I can't give you much more detail than to say that all of those parties were not able to, to have that border be opened on Saturday as we hoped it would. So I can't speak to where the specific block was, but certainly, Minister Joly had assurances from Israel that they would support Canadians moving across. I know she has also spoken to her Egyptian counterpart, and there are, there is strong support for allowing Canadians to exit when that border is opened. But you are correct; it was not opened on Saturday, and there have been no departures of anyone from Gaza. So it's this isn't a specific Canadian issue. This is an international issue.
Marika Walsh, Globe and Mail.
Hi, thank you. Just to go off of Mackenzie's questions, we're seeing reports that Egypt didn't open the border. Can you please confirm that? And just based on your opening statement, is it correct that the number of people in Gaza who are looking for government help to get out has doubled since Friday from 150 to 300? Who are they? Where are they? And what are you telling them? Because the U.S. is telling them to go to the border crossing now in hopes of it opening. Are you also giving that advice, or are you saying stay put and stand by?
So in terms of the advice we're giving, you're correct, and I've been in close contact with my U.S. counterparts over the weekend to get a sense of the advice that they've been giving as well. In terms of the advice we've been giving, we have been very clear that if an opportunity arises, it will be a short window. We have emphasized that people need to ensure their own safety and security when they're traveling, that they need to be prepared. They need to be aware of their context, and that should an opportunity arise, that being close to that border would be a benefit. But again, individuals are having to make really difficult decisions, and they need to assess their safety and security. So we are not telling people to go straight to that border until we have an understanding that there will be an opening. Our assessment of the border is that we are concerned about security issues at the border itself.
But just to clarify, though, you're asking people to get close to it, and can you give a sense of whether there is any optimism that it opens? Because, of course, Friday's announcement gave a glimmer of hope. It wasn't just Canada giving that information. Now, is it that there is no hope, or is it that we just don't have the details yet? For example, Antony Blinken said, according to the Associated Press, that the Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt will reopen. So where are things at in terms of a general sense of what is to be expected? What are the options? And are you aware that the Gaza border crossing will open?
We are extremely hopeful that that border will open, and we know that our partners in the U.S. are working really intensively on trying to secure agreement for that border to open. And Israel has been engaged, Egypt has been engaged, and as soon as we have concrete information, we will be providing that to Canadians. In terms of, when this happens, right now we do not have any specific timings or days that have been outlined. We are doing proactively all the work we need to do right now to ensure that all the Canadians who we know are being sort of, are those names, those individuals are being provided to our partners to be able to ensure that they can move seamlessly through that border. We have also been very clear with families, with mixed groups, that it is not clear yet to us whether we will be able to move individuals beyond Canadian citizens across those borders. And we understand that this is very challenging. We are pushing right now to have all Canada entitled persons, so that's Canadian citizens, permanent residents, and their family members, to be able to cross that border. And so, we continue to advocate on behalf of all Canada entitled persons to be able to leave Gaza. Thanks.
And just to clarify, it has doubled then? All 300
Yes, it
want
has.
to
We have
leave? Okay,
300.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
GP Tasker, CBC.
Hello, folks. Thanks for taking our questions today. Can I just ask about the person that has now been confirmed dead, the latest casualty, I guess, of this conflict? What more can you tell us about the circumstances of this death? Where were they? Where are they from? How did they die? Anything you can add would be very helpful. Thank you.
So I can't confirm any specifics for privacy reasons. I would say it has always been a possibility that missing persons would be confirmed deceased. That has always been a possibility. It is an extremely tragic outcome. Our thoughts are with the families in all of these cases. And so in terms of kind of what we are focusing on in terms of concrete actions right now, we are very focused on addressing the cases of the three the 3 missing persons who we continue to try to locate and bring back to safety in Canada.
And I want to ask you about the humanitarian aid. I think the Prime Minister, or maybe it was the Foreign Affairs Minister, announced $10 million in aid. What assurances can you give the Canadian people that that funding will not end up in the hands of Hamas?
Yes, thank you for the question. It was indeed both announced by the Prime Minister and by the International Development Minister, Ahmed Hussein. Look, we've done humanitarian assistance and development assistance in the region, including in Gaza, for a very long time. So the protocols we have in place of enhanced due diligence is a well-oiled machine. We exercise enhanced due diligence for all humanitarian and development assistance funding for Palestinians, and that includes ongoing oversight, regular site visits, systematic screening process, and very strong anti-terrorism provisions in funding agreements. We only deal with trusted, credible partners that are on the ground.
Okay. So if there's no more questions in the room, we will go to... Yes, okay. Alyssa Passafiume, Canadian Press.
Yes, hi. So you mentioned that there's one more flight going out tomorrow to bring Canadians home. Is that the last of the flights, and are you confident that every Canadian who wants to leave is able to leave by then?
Hey, thanks very much. Our air bridge continues. So our air bridge from Tel Aviv to Athens is continuing. As I said today, 2 flights occurred today. 2 more are scheduled for tomorrow. We're going to continue this, and the duration of the operation will be determined in concert with our global affairs colleagues. So at this time, we're planning on, like as I said, 1 flight just returned to Athens in the last few minutes, and 1 just landed in Tel Aviv. So those 2 flights today, we're planning for 2 tomorrow, and that's going to be in concert with global affairs as we continue the operation.
And just my last question, there were some reports of security issues regarding protests on Friday. Have any of those materialized? Have you heard anything that has happened in there?
Sorry, can you specify
which
location do you mean?
There were protests scheduled all over Canada about in support of Palestinians and allegedly in support of Hamas, that people and police jurisdictions were reporting for people to keep an eye on. Have you seen any of those materialize into something that put people in danger?
Look, nobody hears is from public safety, I'm afraid, but we have heard of nothing major over the past few days.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll just go online. Rachel, CTV. You can unmute yourself, Rachel.
Thank you. You said the situation in Lebanon is becoming increasingly unstable. Can you expand on your concerns in that country and what Global Affairs is doing there in light of the concerns of escalation there?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think I go back, we've been watching this situation closely. We recognize the possibility for broader regional impacts. This is where I would point to the absolute importance of watching our travel advice. It's the first sort of communication that we have in place for Canadians, because what we want to do is to give them the information that they need to be able to make good decisions around their own travel. And so we are trying to emphasize that people should really look at that travel advice, which is now at avoid non-essential travel, so that they're able to make informed decisions for themselves. And again, it's based on really good analysis by my team at Global Affairs. Of course, look, we've been through an evacuation situation in Lebanon before. I mentioned there are a lot of Canadians and Canada entitled persons in Lebanon. We have done a lot of contingency planning with our colleagues at the Canadian Armed Forces and others to ensure that we have up-to-date planning in place that we could operationalize at any point. And we also work really closely with our international partners. Last time there was a major incident in Lebanon, it was very much an international effort to support people. But I would go back again to our travel advice and the emphasis on individuals taking that travel advice and hopefully making decisions that would reduce their likelihood of ending up in a situation should the conditions deteriorate. We're seeing stuff on the border that concerns us that is being reported in the media. And so we are trying to ensure that we're being very transparent with Canadians so that they can act accordingly. I don't know if you'd like to provide additional thoughts on our planning.
I think, we're going to continue to assist the assisted departure right now. We're obviously concerned about the broader stability in the region. And the Canadian Armed Forces, just as Julie has noted, we've moved planners and liaison teams into the region to operate as part of a larger interdepartmental task force led by Global Affairs and to link up with allies and partners in the regions. And, we are working with our not only the Canadian government, with our allies, assessing how this conflict could possibly spill over regionally and, more importantly, the impacts it could have in the region. We know it could. We just don't know if it will or what would it look like. So for this reason, we have sent teams forward with our Global Force counterparts to Cyprus to set up the conditions to work with partners and allies, and we're taking the appropriate steps to lean forward for any other contingencies, as you rightly expect from the government.
Thank you. And just as a follow-up, excuse me, can you provide an update on the team of experts that was being sent to help on the hostage front? Have they arrived? What work are they doing?
Yeah, so they arrived days ago. They are working in Tel Aviv to connect with all the relevant counterparts, be it other countries who are working. There is a broad group of missing persons in Israel right now, and so there are many partners on the ground. I know our team has been, in addition to counterparts in Israel, has been in discussions also with the United States officials there who are working on these issues. So we're very much benefiting from the broader discussions. We are able to get information in real time, face to face, which is really, really important to being able to action it and try to resolve these cases. Thanks.
Donc on va revenir dans la salle. Je pense qu'on a encore peut-être un peu de temps pour les questions. Alors, si peut-être je peux me permettre, Guillaume Saint-Pierre, Journal de Montréal, je voulais juste revenir sur ce que Mme Sunday disait tout à l'heure à propos des ressortissants canadiens à Gaza. Donc, vous dites que ceux qui ne sont pas citoyens pourraient, en fait, pas pouvoir sortir, possiblement. Est-ce que vous parlez des résidents permanents et leurs familles? Donc, ce serait juste les citoyens canadiens et... Pouvez-vous juste expliquer aussi la logique derrière ça? Qui en a décidé ainsi?
Alors, il n'y a pas de décision et nous, on est en train de donner tous nos noms, c'est-à-dire pour les Canadiens, aussi les résidents permanents, leurs familles, pour que les autorités égyptiennes et israéliennes puissent donner leur approbation. Mais on sait que c'est très important que, premièrement, tout le monde a les documents pertinents. Si les gens n'ont pas des documents, ça va devenir très, très difficile, mais on essaie de valider tous les documents. C'est pourquoi j'ai mon collègue ici avec IRCC dans notre groupe d'urgence ici à Ottawa, mais aussi on est en train d'essayer, mais il y a une réalité que ça va être un peu dur. Et je sais parler avec mes collègues des autres pays. On est tous en train d'essayer d'avoir l'approbation pour tous nos clients, mais il y aura beaucoup de complexité en sortir. Alors, on continue à essayer à créer de l'opportunité pour tout le monde, mais on sait que ça va être peut-être un peu plus facile pour les gens qui ont des passeports canadiens.
OK. Faire un autre tour dans la salle. Miracle Walsh, Glow and Mill.
Hi there. Just to revisit, just to get some more clarity on the opening of the Rafah border, is Canada involved in any of the negotiations with Egypt directly, or and what is it? Because we've seen talk online about, you know, some sort of deal in which there's more loans or debt forgiveness with Egypt, or, you know, there's lots of different speculation. So could you just clarify what is being considered like that? What is on the table? What needs to happen for it to actually happen, for it to actually open?
I think it's important, first of all, to clarify that while we talk about a border, there are two crossings.
Sorry, I mean the Rafah border crossing.
No, I know. That's what, yeah,
Okay.
but there's a crossing to get out of Gaza
Yes.
and a crossing to get into
Right.
Egypt. And in order for all things to line up, Egyptian border authorities, Israeli border authorities need to have a plan and agree on that. And so the negotiations, the conversations are taking place between Egypt and Israel, Canada, and a number of other countries. And I've mentioned the telephone diplomacy that Minister Joly has been running. Her counterparts from other countries are doing the same, are calling both Israeli and Egyptian counterparts to make sure that the conditions are there for a safe, or as safe as possible, a passage for foreign nationals out of Gaza through the Rafah point. But as been mentioned before, Hamas is probably playing some obstruction inside of Gaza as well, and is in some cases preventing the movement of some individuals inside Gaza. It's very difficult to have a firm fix on what's going on inside. So it's not just a matter of opening the gates of a border. There's a lot of circumstances and conditions that have to be lined up in order for that passage to be relatively safe.
Can you clarify, though, if you know where the snag is? Is it with Israel? Is it with Egypt? Or is it with Hamas? Or is it all three? And you can't clarify that.
No, we don't have those details.
Okay, and then just more broadly, can you clarify what Canada's policy is right now on the conflict? We're seeing more and more calls for a ceasefire. What is the federal government's position on whether there should be a ceasefire right now, and whether Israel needs to stop its bombardment?
Look, the situation is a war zone and is extremely volatile. We saw some atrocious and barbaric terrorist attacks by Hamas into Israel, and Canada stands firmly behind Israel and its right to defend itself in accordance with humanitarian international law. The biggest concern right now is with regard to the protection of civilians. Let's remember that all sides have a responsibility to protect civilians and shield them from abuses and violence. And we are calling on all parties to look after civilians and to facilitate access to humanitarian assistance and to reach those in need.
So you're not calling for a ceasefire, to be clear?
I could reiterate the same thing, but that is our position right now, is really we stand by Israel's right to defend itself, and we call on all parties to respect humanitarian law.
We had a question online, but I think the person disappeared. So, Mackenzie, go ahead.
Just on the numbers, I think you'd said previously that there were 14,000 people in Lebanon who had kind of registered with the government. Do you have any more specificity on the Lebanon numbers, and if people have asked to be removed like they had in Israel? And also on the Israel figure too, do we have a number of people who are still looking to leave with the federal government?
Yeah. So we're, in terms of our ROCA for Lebanon, we have 14,500 approximately, and that has gone up a little bit, just over 100 in the past few days. In terms of Israel, we now have 6,800 on our registration, same number as we had in the Palestinian territories. But in terms of individuals seeking assistance in Israel, we have approximately 2,300. So that number is going up. We're still getting requests for supported flights out of Tel Aviv. Yeah.
Can you just confirm the Palestinian number again? You said it was the same number. Can you just...
Sorry, yeah. So I said there were 300 in Gaza.
Yeah.
And there are 250 roughly in the West Bank.
Great. And for the 3 missing people, does the Canadian government have any confirmation that they're alive?
So we are treating those cases. That our official position, if those are missing persons, is that they are alive. And this is why we are moving all of our efforts into locating them.
OK. On a une question aussi en ligne. Alice Girard-Bossé, La Presse.
Oui, bonjour. Vous avez mentionné qu'il y aurait des vols d'évacuation à partir de Tel Aviv demain. Prévoyez-vous en avoir d'autres plus tard dans la semaine et jusqu'à quand faut-il s'attendre à ce que les vols se poursuivent?
Alors, nous allons continuer nos vols cette semaine. Je n'ai pas une date pour dire qu'on va arrêter maintenant. On va regarder s'il y a une demande. Nous allons continuer pour maintenant.
Oui, absolument. Les vols entre Tel Aviv et Athens continuent juste avec la demande de FL Mondial Canada.
Merci.
Pas de questions de suivi?
Non, ça va, merci.
OK, d'accord.
JP Tasker again. Can I just ask about the West Bank? We're hearing some conflicting messages about evacuations on the ground. Some folks there are not necessarily sure whether they're leaving tomorrow or Tuesday, if it's happening at all. Can you just give us a sense of when you might see some of those buses depart the region for Jordan and how many people you expect to see on those buses?
Yeah, thank you. So again, the situation in the West Bank is unique. We know right now that there are checkpoints in the Jerusalem area that are closed. It's closed to West Bank residents. Much like the case in Gaza, we need Israel's support to be able to do these evacuations. Foreign Minister Cohen provided this reassurance of support to Minister Joly when she was in Tel Aviv. We are ready to start a land transportation option as early as tomorrow, but it's complicated. And let me just provide a few details about why that is. So the first bus, to go, obviously, this is a 2-bus movement. So you start with a bus. We would muster people, obviously, in Ramallah from across the West Bank. They would move out. We would go through. We would have to have Israeli agreement to be able to move out of the West Bank, which we are actively seeking, and we are, of course, our head of mission is intensively engaged in getting that agreement for all the people on that bus to move. We then would go to the Allenby Gate. At that point, our ambassador in Jordan is working right now and will be sending a bus from Jordan because there will be people will have to switch buses at that gate and then be brought into Jordan. So it is quite complex. The limiting factor right now is that right now we have been informed that the Allenby Gate into Jordan will be closed tomorrow. And so that is something that we are working to see if we can resolve. But that is a blanket closure that is not specific to Canadians. But you can see how volatile and constantly changing the situation is on the ground. But certainly we're working to be able to operationalize that as quickly as possible. Thanks.
We had maybe one last question to wrap it up.
Sorry, I appreciate you taking all of our questions, but I just wanted to clarify what you're saying there. The Allenby Gate, are you saying that Israel's not opening that? Or
sorry, on the Jordanian side.
The Jordanian side is not agreeing to open it. And so to be clear, all of the elements are in place for an evacuation except for the doors won't open. And so what is the message to Canadians of the West Bank? Should they again be mustering somewhere, or should they be staying in place?
So yes, this is important. We have not told people to come to Ramallah for set departure until we can confirm that we can move from start to finish, and that we have all the authorities to be able to do that and to cross that border into Jordan. We would not be telling Canadians to go. Our mission in Ramallah and our watch center are reaching out to people. We know who they are. We have their numbers. And we will be informing them as the opportunities arise, and we will be telling them specifically where to go, what to do. So that is a conversation, and as I mentioned before, both our mission and the Watch Center have been reaching out, through various means to be in contact with people. Obviously, documentation is going to be really key. So Canadian citizens, these first buses will likely be more Canadian citizens, but our IRCC colleagues are with us in Ramallah, and they are ready to support us in ensuring that family members, PRs, et cetera, are well documented.
And just to
to also reinforce, again, this is a situation where there are two crossings, one to get out of the West Bank, one to get into Jordan. And so this is a good illustration of how fluid the situation is. 1 hour, we can receive information from one side or the other that for whatever reason they're closing that particular border crossing. So right now, and this is literally an inject over the last couple of hours, that we've heard that the King Hussein side on the Jordan side was going to be closed. We are relentless in our efforts to make sure that it opens to potential Canadians wanting to go across. So it is not a definitive answer at this point, and all efforts are being deployed to work with the Jordanians to keep that open.
You mean tomorrow it's not definitive yet?
At any point.
Your point is, as it stands now, that's the case, but it could change again.
Yes, and what I'm saying is that we are deploying all efforts, calls at all levels to make sure that Jordanian authorities continue to cooperate and facilitate the evacuation of Canadians.
Pardon my ignorance, but was that gate open until now, and now it's going to be closed tomorrow? Or is this a regular closure on Mondays? Like, what is...
No, it has been, the gate has been opening and closing at different hours based on what's going on in the region. It has been, today, for example, it was open, but it is fluctuating for reasons that we don't always completely, we don't know precisely. But certainly we will be ready in terms of being able to make this movement should the conditions permit as early as tomorrow.
Okay. And when you said those numbers earlier, the 250 in the West Bank, you said asking for assistance. Those are, as you said on Friday, the vast majority asking to help getting out,
yes.
Right? Okay. Thank you so much.
And just on the same point, the flights out of Israel, the 2,300, is that people who want out of Israel too? Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. But I think just to echo Julie's and Alexandre's point, it's fluid and volatile, it's changing. Because if you call 4 days ago, the number was around 700. We've already evacuated 1,000. So this is changing daily.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. C'est ce qui met fin à la conférence de presse. Je vous souhaite un excellent dimanche.
Merci.
Merci.